Hey, it's Friday, which means it's another episode of Psycho for Tyco. And this episode we're talking about upgrading and actually making a decent caboose, but not a bay window caboose, for your pike. And if you're an East Coast railroader that models the Pennsylvania, the Penn Central, and Conrail, I think you know what's coming up. So Tyco, of course, made this weird little streamlined caboose that follows no prototype. I mean, it's close for Burlington and probably Frisco, but the window arrangement's all wrong. But we're going to take this and we're going to convert it into what I found in my junk pile, which I did a while back, an N8 caboose for the Pennsylvania, Penn Central, and Conrail. So you East Coast modelers, you're going to love this one. Now, a short little history on N8 cabooses in the model form. As far as I know, only Bowser makes them, and you can find them occasionally on eBay, but you could find these a dime a dozen on eBay. So if you're modeling the East Coast, this one is for you. Alright, so we have our cars stripped. Now I just use regular old brake fluid, and brake fluid seems to work good with Tyco cars. Brake fluid might work with other model railroad manufacturers. It is safe for plastic, so if you use brake fluid to strip this with and it doesn't work, just wash it and try another paint stripper. The other thing I like about brake fluid, and which is one of the main things that we discuss on this site, it's inexpensive. So regular .3, .4 brake fluid, stick it in a mason jar or something like that, drop these in. You can leave these in for months. Now, the only difference is, of course, sometimes paint brands change. If you'll notice on the Mantua car, the paint didn't quite clean off, but the Tyco, the Consolidated Foods version, yeah, it's stripped up real nice. It's pretty much white now. So I know there might have been some discussion that wasn't in the comments in any of mine. Well, how do you strip these? Well, that's how you strip them. So now for the next thing, we're going to use both cabooses, and we're going to make some cuts in certain locations to shorten this up. So one's just going to be the cupola, and the other one is going to be our ends. And I had some examples here somewhere. I don't know what I did with them. I wouldn't call them failed attempts, but they were basically projects that wound up with bad cuts. So I'm hoping with this video I'm going to get these cuts correct, and of course we're going to use our good friend painter's tape. So let's go ahead, get started, and we'll mask off where we're going to do the cupola cut here, and we're going to mask off where we're going to do our end cut here. Alrighty, and we've got our first cut ready. Now, how I measured it, I always measure by eye, and the way I figure the cuts are going to be to where it fits is right behind the second window, because it's pretty much even on the same sides. And if you can see in here where this little drop tab is, that's where my mark is. Now, in order to get these cuts straight as possible, I pretty much use an index card. That's my angle, and it actually works pretty good. So we're going to get these ends cut, and then we're going to do the other ends and the cupola. Okay, so here are some of the first cuts applied. First thing I do is I cut the edges as close as possible, and then I'll put some tape on top. when I got my little notches on the sides. Then I'll cut the top. Now this is kind of the sneaky way I do it, because the cuts have got to be so close to the cupola, and I don't want to damage the cupola. What I will do is I will start my straight edge on the outside. And again, I want to use the small window as my measuring point. So, you know, I'll put my index card here, get my nice little straight line. Do it on the inside, and then as best as possible, put another piece of tape right next to it so I can get my cut. Now, if you notice why I'm doing it this way, I actually do want more material on this side so that when I get it together, with luck, these things will mesh up with very little problem and very little putty. Now let me show you one of my older attempts. You can see here, I have to put a lot of putty in here, and in some cases, I mess up detail. I'm really trying not to do that with this one. Alright, we got our ends cut, we got our cupola cut. I did a little bit of filing around here just to try and get it a little more square. This is like my third attempt at this car. And no matter how hard I get it together, I still got gaps. But that's okay, I've got putty. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to put this all together, and then we're going to fill it with putty. And I'll show you how to do that. Now, when you're talking about puttying gaps, you really want your gaps as little as possible. That's what's going to hide a lot of the seams. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to do that. Now when I did this side, I got a little more window edge than I wanted, which is fine as long as it fits on the chassis. Again, we'll throw a little putty in there, we'll fill that crack. Okay, so when I initially made the cuts, I found an error. When I put it here, I've just got to shave off a little more, and that's where I made these markings. And if I shave it off correctly, then the caboose is going to fit. So, a little file and fit, a little sanding. I've got my sandpaper. I'll sand these down a little bit, and I'll keep fitting to make sure that I have no gaps. So this is going to take a little more than just a day to do, but we're going to get it done. Now every so often you do want to stop. You want to test fit everything on the frame, make sure mostly everything is square. This is almost there. I'm opting to use the Tyco underframe versus the Mantua underframe. Even though the Mantua's got a little better detail to it on the ends, it doesn't have the wooden stirrups. So I'm going to use the Tyco frame and modify that accordingly, but we're not there yet. We're just test fitting everything. And so far everything is looking copacetic. Which is good, okay? You sometimes want to have too much than not enough. A friend of mine once used a great line. I've cut it off 3 times and it's still too short. So the test fitting is complete. Now I just got to figure out which side is going to be the more square. And I think it's going to be this configuration. Possibly. Maybe just some light sanding just to make it a little better. But it looks like everything is coming together, so all I'll need is a couple of rubber bands, and we'll cement it in, and we'll cement it in again from the inside. Always do it from the inside because fingerprints is a bad thing with plastic welder. Now sometimes when I do my cutting and scraping, I'll have a lot of this left over. Sometimes I'll do a little hogging with my Dremel just to get it close. So I'll do it that way, and then I'll sand the rest of it down. I've got a little glass jar which has got some MEK in there, and I just drop the plastic in there because what does MEK do? It melts the plastic. And basically what I turned out with is a little liquid putty. So I just put that in there, and I'll just shake it all up. And yeah, that'll become my putty. Even though I've sanded it smooth and used a plastic welder, as you can see, we still have some lines here. This is where good old-fashioned putty comes in. And we'll show you how to do the putty. So with putty, you're going to need a chisel blade, at least a smooth one. This one will do. This is the one I've been using to chisel off ladders. And then you just want to put some on the flat end when it comes out. This Nevada weather, I swear. Oh, there we go. I think I got to knead it a little bit. That's really watery. This is also the reason why I'm not a fan of putty, is because, as you can see here, a lot of times it separates. So you got to kind of knead it up like so. Any of you that are former military, post 1980s, you'll know what I'm talking about. But like the packages of cheese, where we had to knead those. So what you want to do here with the putty is you want to put the dab on there, and then you just want to run your knife or your blade across to fill the gaps. Simple as that. So we're going to do that, and we're going to let it dry for roughly 24 hours, and then we'll sand down any imperfections or whatnot. I even got some hard chunks in here. Now the advantage of putty versus, like, say my jar of goo here is I don't have to worry so much about fingerprints rubbing it off. So we just want to go ahead and get the seams. Like I was saying, you know, some of you military people, you'll know what I'm talking about when I say this is like the MRE cheese, where you gotta knead it all up in order to spread it on the cracker that like destroys itself the second you open the package and it's exposed to air. There we go. do this a different way. I gotta do it like a painter. Alrighty. Alright. So, there's advantages with the putty, there's advantages with the goo. There are disadvantages with the putty, and there are disadvantages with the goo. The advantage with the goo, it dries very quickly. It seals very quickly. The disadvantage of the goo is because it melts plastic so easily that it gets fingerprints everywhere. The advantage of the putty obviously is the tactness. I mean, I can touch it and I'm not going to get fingerprints over the caboose or any sort of piece of modeling equipment I get. The disadvantage of the putty is sometimes it separates, and also it goes all over the place. So we'll set that aside. And then we'll talk about what we did as far as modifying the caboose itself. The only modification we've done is we've cut away the toolbox that was on the side. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to do the same truck and coupler setup. Now this is one of the failed projects that I'm trying to restore here. This one's going to retain its toolbox, and it just shows where I put the Katy couplers. As you can see, I don't mount them very flush. I just kind of get the hole right here where the most meat is, and then I file it down, and then obviously when I put the stirrups and the wheel brake system in, it's gonna hide the screw. So now we just wait for it to dry. Alrighty, and here is the finished product. Our East Coast N8 caboose is complete. You can still kind of see where I made the weld lines, but they're not as bad. I would think a coat of paint and some decals and a little weathering will cover that all up when you get it. So just another item that'll be going up on my eBay store, and if you don't want to buy from my eBay store, that's completely understandable, because as you've seen in this video, you can build one too, and not really bad looking when it comes right down to it. So that's it for this episode. So we will see you next week on another Sunday, and as it stands, I'm Psycho for Tyco. Hey friends, I know you're at the end of the video and all that, but I just wanted to give a quick shout out that if you're in Carson City or any of the surrounding neighborhoods, come on down to Mills Park, where the Carson City Railroad Association, my model railroad club, happens to be at. We've got both HO scale and N scale. We run modular displays. We also have, during the summer months, a 2-foot tourist railroad that kind of goes around half the park. Membership fee is about $35. If you want to run some trains, come on down. Just let us know. Link in the description, and the link is right here at the bottom. And have a good one. I'm Psycho for Tyco. We'll see you next time. Hey friends, it's Friday, which means it's another episode of Psycho for Tyco here. And today, we're not doing boxcars.